Welcome, friends, to another Wolff Responds. I call this one Trump's Ugly Tax Law because I want to show you how ugly that new law is. The very opposite of big and beautiful. It is really a testament to how far and how badly the American system has fallen when it comes to anything remotely like tax fairness. Mr. Trump didn't invest what's going on. He's only the latest with his Republican dominance of the two houses of Congress in pushing through the burden of taxes being shifted yet again from the rich corporations and those individuals they make rich off of them and onto all the rest of us, the middle class, the working class, the poor, whatever it is you want to call them. And this latest bill does that even worse than before. And that ugliness, because that's what it is, it's ugly to treat people in this way, especially after we've had 40 to 50 years of a massive redistribution of wealth from the bottom and the middle to those at the top. They have no decency there. They have no shame. They're grabbing it all. And this tax law, as I'm going to show you, is another step in this awful, ugly direction. So here we go, and we'll keep it very simple. There are two sources of the taxes that find their way to the federal government. One of them are the taxes paid by businesses, a profits tax. You might think of it as the income tax for business. Their income is called their profit. It's a profits tax. And the other tax is on you and me, on working people. It comes out of our salaries and our wages, directly or indirectly, when we earn them, when we spend them. That varies, but it's not a fundamental difference. The real issue is, who pays? Corporations and the rich on the one hand, or all the rest of us, the vast majority, on the other. Now, there was a time in American history, more than once, but most recently, right after World War II, in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, into the 70s, when corporations and the rich were required to pay significant amounts of taxes. Oh, it's not that they hadn't shifted on to us beforehand. They had. No sooner was an income tax passed early in the 20th century than corporations and the rich went to work across the entire last century to shift it. But as late as the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, corporations and the rich paid significant amounts. They don't anymore. It's really important that you understand that. Here's how it went. First, the corporations and the rich used their wealth to make donations to the politicians, to hire the lobbyists to work on the politicians who get elected, to change the law, to cut the taxes that they have to pay, down, 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 starting in the 1960s and 70s and dropping progressively after that. Now they are at about as low as they have been. Mr. Trump gleefully provided another big tax cut after all the others in the December 2017 show in Washington. And the ugly tax law just passed a week or two ago is yet another step beyond the first step Mr. Trump took to cut the taxes of corporations and the rich. Okay, when the government does that, When the government does that, it then has to follow suit by accommodating the cut in taxes it's given to corporations and the rich. And how does the federal government do it? It finds somebody else to tax, or it cuts spending, but on who? On you and me. It dare not cut the spending on the corporations and the rich, because that's why corporations and the rich give them all that money to get into office so they don't mess with corporations and the rich. So over the years, the taxes on us somehow find a way of going up, whereas the taxes on corporations and the rich go down. But if you cut taxes on corporations and the rich, and if you raise them on the rest of us, you get a tax revolt from the people. And we've had that in America for the last 30 or 40 years. Doesn't work all the time, but it puts a limit on how much the government can tax us. We're not willing, and that's a good thing about us, we're not willing to sit there and be patsies as the corporations and the rich get one humongous tax cut after another. So now the government has limits. It can't cut on us, the people. It can't get more taxes out of us, the people. So what does it do? First defense, and that's becoming enormous now, is to borrow money. That way the government doesn't have to tax the corporations and the rich, and it doesn't raise our taxes as much as might provoke a revolt, and it solves the problem by borrowing. And as I have tried to stress so many times, you can understand high finance when I tell you simply, who do the government borrow from? And the answer is corporations and the rich. Why? Because they don't have to pay taxes and can use the money they were going to pay to the government if they were taxed fairly to instead give the government a loan. If you're rich or a corporation, this is called a no-brainer. Instead of being taxed, the government comes, takes your money, like happens to you and me. No, instead, the government doesn't tax you and instead comes a little later and borrows the money from you, promising to pay it back in a year or 2 or 5, and paying you interest in the meanwhile every year. But now we've reached so bad a point in our economy, in our capitalism gone screwy, that the rich people are now not as willing as they used to be to play this game, to lend money to the over-borrowing federal government. That's why the credit agencies, Standard & Poor, Moody's, and Fitch's, have lowered the credit rating of the United States below AAA, what some other countries get. It's not as safe to lend to the United States. Why? Because it has borrowed so much. And why is that? Because corporations and the rich use their politicians, the ones they donate to and own, to make sure they don't have to pay. And they're happy to borrow, but not so happy now because the government is so deeply in debt that they don't want to lend the way they used to. Now the government is stuck. What is it going to do? And the answer is it's going to find people that the Republican Party doesn't like. And it's going to find a way to tax them. And that's what's interesting about the new big Trump ugly tax law. Let's take a look. The tariff. The tariffs are the big thing that's new in the world of the government's taxing. But of course, it really isn't new. Tariffs have been part of American history from the beginning. But tariffs are now important because it's the only way left for the government to raise some money. And let's see who will end up paying it. A tariff is a tax on goods that are brought in to the United States. They have to be paid by the businesses who bring in goods. You know, Walmart that brings in the goods that you can buy at the Walmart store, or Amazon that collects goods from around the world and then shovels them to you. All the companies that make things in America that have parts that have to be brought from around the world. For example, all of our automobile companies, all of our appliance companies, those that we have left. So it's companies, American companies, that bring the goods in, and foreign companies who have operations here who bring the goods in. Those companies pay Uncle Sam the tariff. But now here comes the good or the horrible news, depending on whether you're a corporation or a worker. If you're a corporation, what you do is pay that tariff and then raise the price of whatever you sell to recover for yourself what you have to give to Uncle Sam. So who in the end pays for the tariff? You and I, the American consumer. Who else has the new ugly tax bill targeted? Well, whoever the Republicans don't like. Big, rich universities. You know, the Harvards and the Yales and the Princetons and all of them, they're seeing a nice big tax hike. Why? Because the government doesn't like them. The people who come out of them with educations don't seem to like the Republicans all that much either, and therefore they get whacked. It's not a very large amount of money that we're talking about, but the symbolism is enough. You can see who the Republicans are going after to try to solve the problem they made worse by borrowing all those years and by letting corporations and the rich keep reducing what they pay. It puts all the rest of us in a terrible bind. And finally, what do we see? The government going through and firing all those federal employees, cutting the budget, destroying the education department, canceling foreign aid, wiping out. Why? Because they're not willing to tax corporations and the rich, and the corporations and the rich won't even lend them anymore the money because they're too in debt. So they're going to cut savagely across the board and pretend it doesn't cost us anything. You want to know one of the reasons why the rest of the world is changing its attitude towards the United States? It's because we're not doing foreign aid. Oh, yeah, our religions may tell us, help those, quote, less fortunate than yourself. But we just cut that back, or we allowed a leader in our name to do that. That's going to cost us around the world. We are not in the position we were. And this tax cut panders to the richest amongst us at our expense. And let me assure you, the prices will be going up to make us pay for all the circus of tariffs that Mr. Trump has been treating us to over the last 6 months. If interventions like this strike you as interesting and useful, please share this video with coworkers, friends, neighbors, relatives, whoever might be interested. It's a kind of conversation that we all ought to be having, since we all have to live with the results of what is being done in our name. And of course, you know, as I do, that doing this costs money. And if you can help us in that regard, it would be enormously appreciated. Thank you.